Right, good evening. This is quite momentous, actually. We've not done one of these before, so and it's lovely to see so many people here. So I've got a script, and I don't normally stick to my script very well, but I think because of the complexity of this evening, I am going to, because otherwise I think I will get in a pickle. I'm sure Cameron won't, but I will. So, good evening, members, officers, and members of the public in the public gallery. Don't think we have anybody, but I think we probably do have quite a few people on viewing the live stream and online. So welcome to this meeting of South Cambridgeshire District Council and Cambridge City Council Cabinets to discuss the Greater Cambridge Local Plan. My name is Councillor Bridget Smith and I'm the leader of South Cambridgeshire District Council, and I'm going to chair the meeting this evening, and to my left is Councillor Cameron Holloway, the leader of Cambridge City Council who'll be acting as vice chair to this meeting. So we're holding separate meetings of our cabinets and will therefore have separate votes at the end of this meeting. Are we? Right, jolly good. But we'll have a shared discussion of the Greater Cambridge local plan. Those in the chamber are reminded that the meeting's being live streamed. By your presence here in the chamber and via video conference, you're deemed to have consented to be filmed and to the use of images and sound recordings for a webcast and archived recording. So I hope that's okay with everybody. Yeah, good. The normal procedure at both our cabinet meetings is to take votes by affirmation. When we move to a vote on any item, I'll ask if members agree with the proposal, and only those members of the Cabinet present in the chamber will be able to move and second motions and votes. Members present virtually may speak in any debate. For clarity, and in the interest of transparency, we will be taking votes on agenda items by authority. I will firstly ask South Cambridgeshire Cabinet members to vote on an item, and I'll then hand over to Councillor Holloway, who will ask City Council Cabinet members to vote on an item. Right? Are we following this? Good. Right. There will be points during the meeting where we will be fulfilling our own respective constitutional commitments, and I'll make this clear throughout the course of the meeting. That sounds really complicated as well. For both authorities, members of the cabinets will be entitled to speak before non-cabinet members, and opportunities will then be provided for the following to speak. The chair of South Cam's Scrutiny and Overview Committee, the chair of Cambridge City Council's Performance, Assets and Strategy Overview and Scrutiny Committee, the leader of the main opposition group for Cambridge City Council, and any other member from South Cambridgeshire District and Cambridge City Councils. May I ask those who are joining us remotely to ensure that their camera and microphone remain off unless they're addressing the Cabinet. And for those of us present in the room, please ensure your microphone is close to you and speak clearly when we're addressing the room. Now, for our visitors, they've all been able to turn their microphones on. Jolly good. Right, so before we do anything else, we're going to move to suspension of standing orders. So I am putting forward from the chair a motion to suspend South Cambridgeshire's standing orders for the duration of this meeting to enable a joint discussion on the local plan to commence. I have a seconder from...
Yes, I'm happy to second that motion. Thank you.
Councillor Brian Milnes will second. So do South Cambridgeshire members agree to approve the motion? Anyone wishing to vote against? And anyone abstaining? So South Cambridgeshire Cabinet therefore agrees to suspend its standing orders for the duration of this meeting. And we have a similar motion from Cambridge City Council, and I'll hand over to Councillor Holloway for that.
Thank you very much, Councillor Smith. I move to suspend Cambridge City's standing orders for the duration of this meeting to enable joint discussion on the local plan to commence. Could I have a seconder for that, please? Councillor Wade?
I'm happy to second. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, do Cambridge City Council Cabinet members agree to approve this motion? Okay, anyone wanting to vote against? Anyone wanting to abstain? Thank you very much, that's agreed. Okay, in that case, we will suspend our standing orders for the duration of this meeting.
Thank you very much indeed. Right, sorry we have to go through all these kind of formalities. So we're moving on to the agenda proper, starting off taking apologies for absence. So Habs and Claire, please, are there any apologies from absence? First from Habs.
Yeah, we've got apologies from Councillor Natalie Warren-Green.
Thank you. And Claire?
We have no apologies that I'm aware of.
Thank you very much. Right, so declarations of interest. Do members have interest to declare in relation to any item of business on the agenda? I'm looking to South Cambridgeshire members initially. No. And Cambridge City members, do you have any interest to declare? No, thank you. So if an interest subsequently becomes apparent, please just raise it at that point in time. We have, so who have we got on? I'm sorry, I can't see who it is. That's Naomi, is it? Hello, would you like to speak now?
Yes, please. It isn't a declaration of interest, it's an apology from absence from Councillor Elliot Tong, who was due to join this meeting, but is unfortunately still on a bus back from Alconbury and apologises.
Thank you
and
very
asked
much.
if I can read his question.
That's really helpful.
Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed. Thank you, that's been noted. We move on to announcements. I don't have any announcements to make at this stage. Do you have any announcements, Councillor Holloway?
No, I don't have any announcements to make.
Thank you. I'm now going to hand over to Councillor Holliday to deal with item 3 on City Cabinet's agenda.
Thank you very much. Yes, it's just the minutes. So just asking whether we are happy to approve the minutes of our Cabinet meeting, which was held on the 21st of October 2025. I move the approval of those minutes as a correct record. Is anyone happy to second those?
Happy to second.
Thank you very much, Councillor Wade. Okay, is everyone happy to approve the minutes? Yes. Thank you very much.
Very good. So those are therefore approved as a correct record. Right, so public questions next. So I do not believe that South Cambridgeshire District Council has received any public questions, so I'm handing back to Councillor Holloway.
Okay, thank you. Well, we had one question. It was from Mr. Anthony Carpen. His question was actually submitted at the November meeting of Performance Assets and Strategy Overview and Scrutiny Committee, but we decided that this was the best forum for that question to be asked and to receive a response. So the question, I think, is going to be shown on the screen along with the supplementary. And if Councillor Thornborough could respond to that question, that would be lovely. Thank you. Councillor Thornborough, you have 2 minutes.
How long do I have?
2 minutes for the initial question and then 2 minutes for the supplementary as well.
Okay. Thank you for highlighting this fascinating area of research. It's clear from the sources you mentioned that they have a passion for creating great places for all members of our community. I have passed on the suggestion to our urban design team. We have sought to create policies through our draft local plan that will shape great places and capture a range of issues that contribute to this. Creating healthy places is a golden thread that we want to run through the whole local plan. So we'd like to invite you and all groups, particularly the ones you have quoted, to make comments on the consultation where we have published a range of design-related policies that we would welcome feedback on. I've been advised that I just want to thank you for your coming forward so often to make useful comments. And an officer has advised me that a previous recent consultation on the biomedical campus, SPD, we were in correspondence with Cleo Valentine from the Department of Architecture at the University of Cambridge after your recommendation, who has published research into how the built environment and building design aesthetics impacts our mental health. She offered to help going forward and is delighted to contribute in any way so we can invite her comments and feedback on this. So please keep the dialogue open and get involved and ask us questions. So thank you once again, Anthony.
Thank you very much, and thank you very much indeed. Right, so we're now moving on to item 5, which is update from Scrutiny and Overview Committee. So for South Cambridgeshire, I'm going to invite Councillor Graham Cohn to introduce our scrutiny report and also invite him to speak alongside agenda item 6 if he wishes.
Thank you, Councillor Smith. I really just wanted to thank the Cabinet members that took part in that meeting, which was very long, rigorous, and we went through many different areas of the local plan. And thank you to the officers that attended that meeting and fielded questions across the board. you will see in the papers set out in front of us that pages 3 to 6 in our agenda pack indicates how this conversation was split up in intersections from the very important issue of consultation, strategy, individual sites, jobs, houses and homes, infrastructure, green issues, place. And you'll see that there were actions to be taken and recommendations from members and actions for officers that are set out in front of us. But really, the recommendation from scrutiny that was that these documents were in a fit state to move forward to the next stage, which would be consultation, taking on board some of those recommendations. I suppose really for me the important issues were around the consultation, and you'll see in that first paragraph what we've noted in there, from issues around accessibility, making sure that there are hard copies, how will residents be able to engage with the website and the consultation, but it is all set out in the document, so I think I'll leave it there. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Cohn, and I thank you for your excellent chairing of a long and detailed meeting, but also to all the members of scrutiny for the careful consideration they gave over this very, very important piece of work, and the feedback we've had has been extremely useful. So thank you very much for that. So that brings us to moving on to item 6, which is the draft Greater Cambridge Local Plan for consultation and update to the local development scheme. So moving on to the substantive item on our agenda, Greater Cambridge Local Plan. May I also remind members that Appendix K, which shows the scrutiny actions and proposed modifications, was published as a supplementary to this agenda. For clarity, as we have a lot of members present, the order of debate will be as follows. The lead cabinet member for South Cambridgeshire, members for South Cambridgeshire and City. Right. Then we're going to have an officer presentation. Then we're going to ask any cabinet members wishing to speak from South Cambridgeshire or Cambridge City. Then we'll ask the chair of the South Cambridgeshire Scrutiny and Overview Committee if there's anything to add at that point. Then we'll ask the chair of City Council's Performance, Assets and Strategy Scrutiny and Overview Committee to speak. Then the city leader of the main opposition, if he wishes to, and then bring in anybody else. And I'm sure there will be further contributions at that point. So if that is clear, I will invite the lead cabinet members for both authorities to introduce their reports, starting with Councillor Toomey Hawkins, please.
Thank you very much, Leader. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to this unique meeting of the Cabinet of both Cambridge City and South Cambridgeshire District Council to consider our joint local plan. The real name is the Greater Cambridge Local Plan, and it's come about as a requirement that was set in 2018 by the planning inspectors who examined and passed as sound both our current adopted Cambridge City and South Cambs local plans. You could say perhaps they had some sort of oversight or foresight or whatever you want to call it, given the current situation we have now with local government reorganization. But there we go. Of course, the local plan sets out our long-term plans for where new homes, workplaces, and community facilities could be built over the next 15 years to meet the rapidly growing economy and housing needs of our area. We accept we need to grow. It's how that growth is delivered sustainably that is key to having a healthy Greater Cambridge. For the first time in history, we did include the themes of climate change, well-being and social inclusion, biodiversity and green spaces, and great places as an integral function of the location of sites that we've proposed for development and the planning policies to guide those developments. And that is the draft plan that is before us this evening that we wish to now take the next step to going out to public consultation to ask our residents for their feedback. Now, this draft plan builds on the comments and feedback we received from the first proposals consultation back in 2021, and it considers carefully and takes into account the well-known infrastructure constraints, such as water supply, that we have in our area, and which is not in our control. In short, the plan shows a need for around 50,000 new homes up to 2045 to meet the forecast of 73,000 additional homes, jobs for the area. Now, thankfully, about 37,000 of those proposed homes are already provided for in our current adopted local plans. And the sites proposed in the first proposals are still very much there. But I think it's important to highlight two major changes, at least for us in South Cambs. We had identified Camborne as a broad location, and now that East West Rail plans for a station near Camborne, not at Camborne, this draft plan proposes a further expansion of Camborne to increase the range of services, homes, and job opportunities that are available there. Furthermore, we've taken into account the government's recent decision not to fund the relocation of the Cambridge wastewater treatment works. We now propose that some of the previously planned homes for Northeast Cambridge could be provided for on land at Grange Farm, which is near Great Abingdon, which also has access to the CSET public transport scheme. The plan reflects the government's continued support for growth around Cambridge, and it looks to support employment sites such as the Cambridge Biomedical Campus and Birmingham Research Campus to expand further. Meanwhile, in response to evidence of rising demand for logistics and industrial space, 2 new sites are identified along the A14 corridor, including the expansion of lorry parking at Cambridge Services. It's a government requirement to have this local plan, and we have till December 2026 to submit it. So we want to hear from our residents their thoughts on the plans we propose, any comments and ideas they may have to help us make it better for them. Tonight, we are presenting this proposal to the Cabinet of both councils to consider and give us the go-ahead to go to public consultation on the 1st of December. Finally, a very big thank you to everyone in the planning policy team who has contributed in one way or another to this exciting document. Thank you, team. Much appreciated. Thank you, Leader.
Thank you very much indeed. Councillor Katie Thornburg.
Thank you, Leader, and members. Well, it was only my 3rd council meeting in October 2018 when our Cambridge City local plan was adopted, and around the same time the South Cambs local plan was adopted. And that was very soon, that was quite soon after the shared planning services had come together. And I think the journey working on the local plan seems to sort of reflect the journey of the shared planning coming together, and how that we have resolved to so many things to work in a much better way. And I am so impressed with all the work to do one local plan for 2 districts. It is such a lot of work. And the officers have worked tirelessly on this, because we have 2 different processes still, and the officers have had to not just deal with the work on the local plan, but deal with getting it through both and different councils and all their meetings to get to this place. So just having this shared planning, this shared meeting, this cabinet meeting sort of represents a real step going forward. And without a doubt, it is the right thing to have a shared local plan, and it represents how the whole area must work together for the benefit of residents in both districts and businesses across the districts as well, and for future residents and businesses. So we've already had 2 consultations, and this will be the 3rd one. Normally, this sort of consultation with local authorities will have about 300 to 400 responses. Our last consultation, there were 8,000 responses, or possibly more. And I think, again, that represents how much hard work's been going into making this a really interesting document and reaching out to as many people as possible and having a really good consultation process. This consultation will actually utilise some local AI that we've specifically developed for this consultation. So rather than taking a year to look at the results, it will maybe just be a few days. But once the results come back, residents and businesses and members can be assured that every single comment will be noted, and we will follow up on each comment, and people will be able to know whether it was how those comments were acted on. Were they incorporated? Did they have to be set aside? And why those decisions were made? And that will be after this consultation. And then the next 12 months are absolutely critical leading into the final submission next December. And we have still got a lot to do, but this consultation and the results is a very serious and important stepping stone going forward, as well as the homes and jobs and infrastructure and priorities that Councillor Hawkins mentioned. We also have an update of the policies from both South Cambs and Cambridge City. So we had different policies and we're amalgamating them into single policies and bringing in more and setting aside ones, not many, that we may not need. So I hope that people, residents and those interested in the plan will look at those policies, because I think they're very progressive, and I think it is taking the climate and nature and biodiversity emergencies as seriously as we possibly can, and I think it will certainly lead to better quality buildings and better communities, better amenities, and a place where our residents and businesses can thrive in both local authorities. So I hope this is an interesting meeting, and as Councillor Hawkins said, we must thank the officers for just the tremendous work for this meeting, but all the work from 2018. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much indeed. So building on your thanks to all the people in our award-winning shared planning service, I'd like to add my thanks to Katie and to Tumi. You've shown exceptional leadership over this, and attempts to do joint local plans have fallen over in other parts of the country when it hasn't been dealing with more than one political party. So, you know, the fact that you have steered this through, it seems, from my perspective, seamlessly, I think is a massive credit to both of you for your professionalism, your leadership, and your ability to, you know, show the very, very best in partnership working. So all credit to you. Thank you. So I will now move on to ask, I think Stephen and Jonathan are going to lead the presentation on, yes, filling in the gaps of anything that we might not yet know. So thank you. Over to you, Stephen.
Thank you, Leader. Yes, I'll ask Jonathan to give just a very brief overview of the proposals ahead of the kind of conversation that we have. Thank you.
We've got a slide deck. Some of the members here will be very familiar with this slide deck because we've been presenting this plan for what feels like the last month. So we're going to go through it quite quickly, and the lead members have given you a good introduction already. But what does this plan do? Well, it's our plan for the next 20 years and beyond. It identifies our strategic priorities, the needs for the area, identifies sites to meet those needs, and the policies that would guide the form of development. And really, this is the opportunity to shape that plan in order to meet that submission deadline set by government of the end of next year. What we will be consulting on, and what's before members today, is a draft local plan with policies, sites and so on, and an accompanying policies map showing how they're represented visually. We'll also be seeking comments on technical matters like the sustainability appraisal and the habitats regulations assessment, but also an awful lot of information really saying why we've developed those policies and the alternatives that we've considered to get there. I will aim to put all that information on our consultation website so people can use that to inform their comments. The plan has been shaped by a vision and objectives, which again has drawn heavily on the feedback we've received during the consultation so far, with climate change being a big element of that. In terms of the development strategy, we have updated what we think the objectively assessed needs, can't say it, of the plan are that needs to be met. We very much looked at what we expected our special economy to be doing over the next 20 years. And that helped inform the number of homes we needed to plan for. We also then looked at how we would respond to those needs and further developed, let's call it the development sequence, where we would look to address those needs, looking first in those urban areas of Cambridge, then looking at the edges of Cambridge, but very much taking account of greenbelt considerations, looking at our new settlements, and then down to the villages. And there's a lot of evidence that's informed the plan, testing the relative merits of those different locations. In terms of the strategy, so we've got a lot of new sites in the urban area of Cambridge itself. On northeast Cambridge, during the plan's preparation, the funding for the relocation of the Cambridge sewage works became clear that the government wasn't going to provide that. We have still included the policy that's been shaped by the Emerging Area Action Plan for that area, but clearly we will need to look to evolve that policy as we go forward, and hopefully we'll receive comments on that through the consultation. On the edge of Cambridge, we've got the airport site, further development at Eddington, West Cambridge, and then the biomedical campus as well, supporting the future of that important site. Our plan looks at further opportunities at Cambourne around East-West Rail and continued development of our existing new settlements, Northstowe, Waterbeach and so on, with a further new settlement located around the employment parks south-east of the city. We've also, as was mentioned, identified sites to meet other employment needs, including warehousing, looking at the A14 corridor. By identifying these sites, we've been able to identify sites to meet the general needs without needing to use greenbelt land. Therefore, we don't think there are exceptional circumstances to release further greenbelt land, apart from at very specific site opportunities to meet the needs of specific sites like the biomedical campus. We have had correspondence from Histon Impington Parish Council, who urged the inclusion of Cambridge Science Park North in the draft local plan, without endorsing its proposal at this time. This is one of several hundred sites that were put to us through a call for sites process and have been tested through the evidence as part of this consultation. We clearly don't think there is exceptional circumstances to develop a site in that location at this time, but clearly comments can be made on sites like that, alternatives that people think should have been put in the plan through the consultation. Our plan has very much taken account of transport issues in shaping the location of future growth. The Combined Authority are currently working on a transport strategy for Greater Cambridge, which is being prepared in parallel with our local plan. Also, whilst we've been going through this committee process, the Housing Minister, Steve Reed, published a press release citing the importance of development around stations. So I would remind members that through the evidence and through the testing of sites, we very much were aware of the opportunities for development of stations. We think that the strategy still remains a sound approach to the issues that our area is facing. We've also very much been led by green infrastructure. So you'll see in the plan, it's not just about development of homes and employment buildings. It's also about how our plan can support growth of our green infrastructure network. Just flicking through the sites, we could go into a lot of detail, but clearly a wide range of sites have been identified in the urban area of Cambridge and a number of policy areas where we seek to improve the public realm given the amount of change that is taking place. On the edge of the city, as already mentioned, quite a range of sites coming forward, some of which were existing in our adopted plans and some new sites as well. And then our vision for Cambourne is clearly set out in a detailed policy setting out the proposed amount of development and detailed policies to shape that, and we're very interested in feedback at this point, how we develop that policy further. And then the further new settlement at Grange Farm for 6,000 homes. Again, very interested in feedback, how that policy can be shaped further through the consultation. And then we considered a number of sites to address the warehousing industrial needs. We identified a site near Cambridge Services, which was in the first proposals, but then this additional site to meet needs near Junction 25. We have a suite of policies in the plan, focusing on each of the big themes we've identified in the plan making process so far. Again, just real feedback on how they can shape the development going forward. We had some really helpful, excellent feedback for the 2 scrutiny committees we've had so far, and as mentioned, we've responded to that through the Appendix K, which has been added to this agenda and subject to the approval of this committee. We look forward to holding a hopefully very engaging public consultation going forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Stephen, is there anything you want to add to that?
Not at this stage, thanks.
Thank you very much indeed. I'm going to ask Katie Porrow to come at this point before I come to Cabinet members, because we've already heard from the from South Cam scrutiny, and it seems only fair. So over to you.
Thank you very much, Chair. So obviously this went to City scrutiny, obviously cross-party committee, and overall it was very positive. We were very happy to endorse it moving towards consultation, and I think we also wanted to note the bits we really strongly supported, because often in these consultations people only tell you what they don't like, but I think as both Councillor Thorburn Hawkins alluded to, there are some incredibly strong policies around biodiversity, climate change, green spaces, social inclusion, great places, so I didn't want that to get forgotten. Like Councillor Cohn, we were keen to have hard copies available to make sure it's accessible to everybody. And we also asked for a particular focus on young youth engagement, so not just over 18s, but the people who will be living this plan as they become adults in Cambridgeshire. I had a couple of things. The officers have done a really helpful response to the points we raised, and I think broadly they're great. A couple of minor things to raise, which I hope cabinets jointly might consider. I think for the monitoring conditions around water and sustainability, so officers have rightly said that we can impose some of those. I think we'd be keen for that to be not just post-occupancy rates of achieving their sustainability targets, but also ongoing. We appreciate we necessarily can't enforce, but we need to learn from these. We've got these exemplar schemes coming forward where we're assuming, you know, water saving. We need to make sure they work so that we know for the next development, if they don't, what we need to do differently. And also on the Cambridge Biomed policy, Cambridge Biomedical Campus, I think committee were very keen for a timescale for the master plan. It is mentioned in paragraph 27 of the supporting text, but it just says a master plan needs to come forward as part of the development. We have, I mean, certainly those of us who sit on Joint Development Management Committee, that has been the case for several years now. And this is obviously so critical to the development of this local plan. You know, the science and the biomed campus is a really key part of this. I would wonder if Cabinet could consider some kind of strengthening of that, maybe rather than as part of, prior to new developments. I do appreciate we have outstanding, you know, outline applications and reserve matters that might not be caught by this. But I think this is so critical. The intention of scrutiny, I think, was that there would be a timescale for that master plan to come forward prior to building out further parts of that site, because at the moment it has been, I think, a little uncontrolled coming forward, and we're risking cutting off our active travel routes and the things we really want to have working there. But again, thank you very much. Generally, the other notes cover everything. I won't repeat what my colleague from South Cams has said from their scrutiny. And I hope Cabinet will consider those 2 points about monitoring and Cambridge Biomed Campus, please. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Cohn, is there anything you want to add?
No, I'm happy to continue. Nothing to add.
Thank you very much. Stephen, do you want to respond at all to any of the feedback from either scrutiny committees? Or?
I think we've obviously sought to take on board where we can through the updated appendix, and there was some helpful engagement around that post the meeting. I think the point around the master plan for the biomedical campus, I think it's determining an appropriate trigger point in a draft plan at this moment in time. I think we need to keep that under review through the engagement with the biomedical campus as we proceed, and particularly with the growth company as well, because there is clearly wider national interest about that particular site. In terms of the post-occupancy water management and monitoring, I know we've discussed this at planning committees in a number of circumstances. It presents some difficulties in terms of implementation of the policy, which is obviously one of the issues that we will be tested on, because as Councillor Porro highlights, it's we can't, strictly speaking, enforce it in quite the way that one would seek to get them to proactively reduce water demand, because that involves individual withholding water to individuals, which would seem to stray well beyond the planning process's ability. So I think my view is, let's put that proposal out to consultation. Let's ask both the development community and indeed our residents and businesses how we might be able to engage with that point, and see what comes back in time for the kind of revised draft plan that we will submit and prepare for the summer.
Thank you very much. Yes, I mean, if the development community, do this stuff of their own volition, that's obviously the best outcome. Okay, so moving to members of both cabinets, would people like to comment? I think there's an opportunity for us all to congratulate all those involved in this. Councillor Milnes to start with.
Yes, thank you. As well as thanking the planning team service and our representatives from the two councils, I noticed that Councillor Hawkins talked about the constraints that we're facing. And it's an ongoing concern that I think it would be worth just reinforcing, that the constraints of the transport, water and electricity are all significant potential barriers to us achieving this growth. And so I'd just like to make a plea to government who are responsible for these constraints through their operators in the National Grid and Water Resources East and so on, that they hear our pleas to make sure that we don't stifle the growth that we're anticipating by lack of those utilities and systems. So that was all I wanted to do to reinforce that point. Thank you.
Thank you. And come on, chaps, there must be some more. Yes, Councillor Bird.
Thank you. I've just got a question about wheelchair adapted homes. My experience was it was very hard to find a property that was wheelchair accessible and could be adapted to my needs. And even to this day, there's still problems going on. And this is something I shout about all the time when we're doing new builds. And at the moment, we can only do 5%. But I want to see that number going up 10%, 20%. Because all of us at any time can become disabled. And it's very important to think ahead. And if we made the homes that were partly accessible, then that would be easier as time went on to change the property if needs be. So I'm just asking, with the new local plan, what figures are we looking at in doing adapted homes?
Thank you. Can I pass that on to somebody? Oh, sorry. Oh, Councillor Thornborough has the answer at her fingertips.
Good, thank you. So, in our current city local plan for the Cambridge City, 5% of the affordable homes has a requirement to be wheelchair adapted. And when we say wheelchair adapted, we use the building regulations M43, and all other homes are M42, which means in theory they can be adapted. But because of the evidence and the work that's been done, the policy that we're seeking to bring through is to increase for affordable homes the wheelchairs to 10%, and then for market homes where there's no requirement to bring 5% in for that. So I think that's it's doubling what we've got for affordable homes, and I really hope that we can do this for the market homes, but we'll have to see whether it's challenged, but if people think that's a good policy, it'd be really good if people said and supported it. That's what we're hoping to bring through. Yeah, thank you.
Do you want to respond to that, Councillor Bird?
I'm really pleased to hear that.
Good.
And I know many disabled people will be too. So thank you very much.
Yeah. I had exactly the same problem for both my parents. Had to build a house in the end. So, righty-ho. Any other questions or comments? Yes, Councillor Holloway's.
Thank you very much. I wanted to ask Councillor Thornborough about what happens if we don't have a local plan. So one of the questions we get asked sometimes by residents is, well, why are you planning for all these homes? Why are you planning for all these jobs, all these spaces for nature? What's the idea behind this? Could we just not do it? So what happens if we don't adopt the emerging local plan?
Well, this local plan has, when it's submitted, it needs to be one that we think can be adopted. So it has to be, there are various criteria it has to be met. But basically, if we don't have if we don't submit this, then the government can impose a local plan on us. I think Stephen Kelly might want to clarify that. I think that's right.
So, yeah, absolutely. The government is legislating for greater powers to step in and intervene in the local plan process if it feels that a local authority is failing to deliver the local plan. I think more broadly, clearly Councillor Milnes has highlighted the importance of infrastructure investment to accompany the growth that, in many respects, whether there's a local plan or not, we've experienced happening across the city, sometimes, and in South Cambs particularly, when there was no 5-year land supply in a kind of largely unregulated fashion. The local plan is a really important tool for coalescing all of those conversations about how many people do we need, how many people will be in Greater Cambridge, how many jobs will be created in Greater Cambridge for those infrastructure providers to do their sums against, and to importantly for the Greater Cambridge area, the councils and leaders to be able to engage constructively with the government and the health community and through education planning and so forth on all of that essential infrastructure that makes life so fulfilling in places such as Greater Cambridge.
Thank you. So Councillor Moore next, please.
Thank you. So thank you for all of your work on this, and I really welcome all of it. As Jerry mentioned, the accessible homes, affordable homes, but particularly the work around sustainability standards and combating the climate change through mitigation and adaptation. All heating will be from non-fossil fuels. That's a huge step forward and something I really welcome. I just wonder, some of the parts of this, for example, the sites, I would imagine could be quite contentious, and as Councillor Holloway mentioned, growth can be quite a contentious subject too, but I would have thought that most residents would fully support all of these changes. And is there any way that we can see the benefits of these changes before the plan is fully adopted? What's the sort of timeline that we can expect to reap the benefits of approving these changes, should the consultation approve them?
Well, there's the current local plan. Well, there's a series of legislation, and when you make a planning decision, you give weight to legislation and documents as a hierarchy. And eventually, this local plan, if it goes through and is adopted, it will replace the current one, and it will carry a lot of weight. But my understanding is that as it gets closer to being adopted, so maybe this time next year, once it's ready for the final consultation, there may be some weight that can be considered. So it may be that people could reference the policies and things like that. But there is some weight, but there's not really that much weight until it's been adopted by the councils fully. But as well as the sites that you've we've gone through the sites that we've chosen and are in the plan. Don't forget that I think over 1,000 sites were submitted, and more than 900 sites were not selected. So I think we could be challenged for the sites that we haven't selected, so that will be interesting to see what those challenges are. But so there's quite a way to go. Thanks.
Did you want to come back at all, or was that sufficient?
No, that's helpful, thank you.
Councillor Smart.
So yes, thank you for the work done on this and to all those residents and others contributing. For those of us who are on planning committees and for planning officers, we use the local plan on a day-to-day basis. So growth is of concern to residents, and it's good that we pay special regard to that. The joint local plan has involved a huge amount of resident involvement, and that's excellent. When we sit on planning committees in South Cambs and Cambridge, this plan is one of the things that we use to decide planning items, and a very important thing that we use. It's right and proper that residents have had a chance to feed into the process of consultation, so that when planning items get to planning committee, or indeed are delegated to officers, that residents get local involvement in decision making. So I'm very pleased to see the involvement in consultation, and thank officers and members for the work done in achieving that.
Thank you. So more of a comment than a question. Did you want to respond, Councillor Thornby? No, lovely. Councillor Bradnam, we've got you online. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't see we had another cabinet. Councillor Bradnam, if you wouldn't mind just holding fire, I didn't see we had another cabinet member hand up. Councillor MacDonald, my apologies, Councillor Bradnam.
Thanks, Leader. The two comments I wanted to make is that with regard to jobs, there were two very extensive studies done. The ICENI 2024 project looking at life science and ICT, land and accommodation needs, and then also the ICENI study in 2025 looking at industrial and warehousing sector and the growth. You know, we have a luxury problem of one of the greatest rates of growth in the UK, and I think the local plan has looked carefully at this and the jobs and the housing numbers, but at the same time given some protection to the green belt. So these are two quite difficult things to balance, and I think the local plan has been put together by the team has done a very good job of reconciling those two things. Thank you.
Thank you. Sorry, Councillor Hawkins, do you want to comment on that? No?
No, just to say thank you, for highlighting that. It definitely, I mean, the more I look at this, all I can say is thank you to everyone who's actually, put something into this. A lot of work has gone into it. And yes, we have lots of evidence that we've had to collect, and we're still collecting. And of course, now we're sort of prop tech savvy. I'm sure we'll have some more. Looking at my prop tech guy there.
Thank you very much. Councillor Smith.
Thank you, Chair. I'm going to go over some of the things that have been said, but I want to exemplify them a bit. So the first thing is that I've gone in after the event after two local planning authorities have had failed local plans, and the failure was basically, can you hear me? The failure was political failure, and local plan making is where councils play a pivotal role, and that was demonstrated where they'd had the failure. But here in Cambridge and South Cambs, we haven't just fulfilled the duty to cooperate, we've made it into a joint enterprise. And as a result of that joint enterprise and political success, we've produced an outstanding draft local plan for consultation. So I just want to emphasise that point, because I think we now work so successfully together is taken for granted, but this doesn't happen elsewhere, and the catastrophic failures cost those communities dear. So that's the first point I wanted to make. The second one was Councillor Milne's point, which is about the infrastructure. And when you look at the tree in which is the diagram that explains the main policy areas of the local plan, infrastructure is the bottom. It's actually everything rests on the infrastructure. And we're now seeing the systemic failure of infrastructure providers to invest in our critical infrastructure. And now we're seeing through the Joint Development Management Committee how that is basically stifling growth. And it is a real attendant problem that government has to deal with as a matter of urgency. I think the other point I wanted to raise was one that was Councillor Pora, and I share her concern that on some of the strategic sites, there's a failure to join together and produce master plans, because it's okay if an individual freestanding development is built in a sustainable manner, but they're missing out on the shared infrastructure that makes their developments even more valuable and even more attractive. And I join with the scrutiny committee that urges more emphasis on making sure that master plans are brought forward on these strategic sites, because as a result, investments will not be as good as they could be if the landowners and the developers cooperate together. It's in their collective interest to do so. And finally, I wish to thank everybody involved in the production of this, and the officers have been absolutely brilliant in all the work that they've done. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed. Do you want to comment, Councillor Thornbury? No, that's very nice. Thank you. So I think we've got Councillor Williams next.
Thank you, Leader. And first of all, thanks to everyone, the shared planning team, and everyone else who's been involved in this document. It's been excellent, and it's an excellent consultation document, I think. I just wanted to touch on the news release that was put out ahead of this meeting, which touches upon the fact that we have the government wishes to have a development corporation, and there has been a growth company, a narrative that's been published, and I wonder if Stephen could, put what we're doing in the context of that.
Thank you. Who wants to take that question? Shall we pass it on to Stephen? Yes.
So happy to comment on that particular point. Clearly, the government have identified their ambitions for consultation on development corporation to see how additional benefit, both in terms of sustainable growth but also economic growth, can be secured. And the Cambridge Growth Company has already started on a study that seeks to explore what the barriers to effective delivery of those ambitions are. We are not aware of the timescale yet for that consultation, but clearly we've published this local plan as the basis for our statutory local plan that we're progressing on the basis of the evidence that we have prepared, scrutinised, and have now published. The Growth Company chair, Peter Freeman, has been clear that their proposals or their objectives are to build from this local plan process, not to undermine or to in any way suggest that this local plan process should cease. And so on that basis, and certainly having publicly stated that objective, I think we're confident that it's right and proper that we proceed, continue to proceed on the development of the strategy that has been identified in this plan, and that we drive towards the submission of the plan to a December 2026 deadline set by the government. I think that's the best way to provide both the infrastructure dialogue that we need, but also to reassure residents that there is a spatial strategy and a clear development plan for their area, given that the existing 2018 local plan, whilst its policies we consider are still up to date by and large, that local plan clearly isn't as ambitious as we've already referred to, as members of both councils wish now for biodiversity, accessibility, and so forth. So continuing to proceed, the development company and the government will consult potentially on a development corporation, but all the reassurance we've had is that the framework that we're outlining is the baseline for their ambitions rather than necessarily something that's at odds with their ambitions.
Thank you very much indeed. So we've now got Councillor Nesta, please.
Thank you very much, and thank you for the hard work. It's very good to see. Just 2 points, actually. One is about the well-being and great places, and I really welcome the artist sort of element to it, sort of completely actually adding it to it. But I had a query about what will happen afterwards. Like, it's mentioned as a meanwhile use, but, let's say that things go well with the artist studios. Would there be something that could be done afterwards for them? And then the other question is in relation to climate change. It's great that it's mentioned, that it's added, but is there anything else in relation to adaptation? So, everything will fail if we're not really adapted to manage the issues brought about by climate change. So I think if it could be added explicitly on the plan, that would be quite helpful. Thank you.
Councillor Thornburg?
So, yes, at the scrutiny committee, there was a discussion about provision for artists, and we have a new policy about using space, which will come forward for buildings to be used in the meanwhile for some really good community functions and purposes, and including artist studios. So normally, for meanwhile spaces, they are temporary, and then quite often there would be a license to allow that to happen. And with the understanding is when the development comes forward, that use would stop. But it's interesting to find out what meanwhile uses come forward. So currently, we've had meanwhile uses for an allotment. We've got a wonderful skate park in Cambridge now, and I think it highlights that there is a need for those spaces. So if we get quite a lot of meanwhile artist studios on the meanwhile spaces, then I think that will highlight the cultural aspect and need for these spaces. And I do think that from speaking to artists that it really does seem to be a need. And I hope that as we plan for amenity space and new community facilities in the larger developments, that we can use information about what meanwhile spaces have been used for to help bring those spaces forward in the future. And in the National Planning Policy Framework, there is a footnote which refers to the Climate Change Act 2008. I think it's the most important footnote in any document, but it reminds us of that legislation and our obligation. And this is part of what we were doing with this local plan. Is we know what the targets are as far as legislation. We also know that both councils have declared climate and biodiversity emergency, but we don't have any legislation about an action plan about how we get there. So this is our sort of action plan on how we are taking the changing climate seriously as possible. But we also, and we hope that the policies we've put in place, which will take us some way to that, will be accepted. But hopefully there'll be other changes in building regulations we hope will come through, which will help that journey. Does that answer your question?
Yeah. Stephen, do you want to add anything onto that?
Just to add that part of the evidence base that we've published includes a kind of part 1 cultural strategy or cultural infrastructure assessment, and indeed I was talking to Sam Scarf earlier on today about this type of related issue, and so we are continuing to explore how that supporting artists as part of the cultural infrastructure of the Greater Cambridge area will be secured through development proposals, because as you highlight, at the moment, the meanwhile we need artist space and studios for the long term with a degree of certainty. So we will be looking at that. And of course, just to highlight the fact that, as Councillor Thornborough's made clear, these days the plan's approach to climate change is not just about building performance, but it encompasses all of the evidence base that we've been working through around water management and assumptions about increasing changing patterns of weather, through to urban heating, the design of buildings in terms of orientation for overheating and so forth. And we welcome further comments on that. I think the plan is ambitious in that regard, but we're open to exploring further.
Thank you, Stephen. Councillor Batchelor.
Thank you, Leader. Well, firstly, I'd just like to welcome this next step. This whole process appears to be taking absolutely forever. And poor Jonathan Dixon has spent his whole life on this. So, yeah, good. Let's get on with the consultation and move on, hopefully, before we all disappear. Yes. So, Councillor Bird made a very good point about homes which should be designed for lifetime living. This is a particular issue for South Cambs in that we don't own our own land and we have to buy the housing from developers after the planning has been agreed, so we have no input to design for affordable housing. So it's really essential that we get that into the rules of the planning, so that it's actually a requirement to get build to recognise the use of wheelchairs and so on. We are getting there, but there's still some way to go, because the other side of it, of course, the planning and building is another thing that appears to take forever. In the gestation of building out a new town, for example. We're sitting here in Campbell. There's currently 4,250 houses, and it's got permission in 31 years ago. So something has to be done about encouraging builders to actually build. So that's all I want
We might take that one to government. I think that's outside our control. Thank you. Councillor Wade.
Thank you, Chair. And like everybody else, I welcome this plan. And I note that it's talking to social inclusion and well-being. And on that, I'd like to ask how the report will reflect and help the DRT community, both settled and travelling, in terms of permanent sites and stopping places. Thank you.
Thank you. Katie.
Thank you for the question. Yes, so I know that this is a question is very important to many people, certainly in the city, but I'm sure in South Cambs as well. And I know that there's been many regular questions about this to full council. And the reason, well, first of all, back in when the inspector approved the current local plans, they made two comments. One is that the next one should be a joint local plan, and that also then the travellers, gypsy and traveller community must be accommodated. So I think there's been a lot of work gathering evidence, and I think you know that everything in the plan has to be based on evidence, and that's taken quite a long time, and I think there's been changes in how the surveys have been carried out, but that has been done, I think, by the planning team, but in conjunction with other stakeholders and the county council. So I think as a result of that, there should be more than 150 new pitches and 20 places for travelling show people is a requirement in this emerging local plan, and those pitches will be on sites in the plan.
Anything else you want to add to that? Nope.
Just to say thank you for the progress. Thanks.
Jolly good. Thank you. Before I bring in non-cabinet members, Councillor Tim Bick, did you want to say anything at this point? Have we?
Sorry, yes. Thank you for the question. I don't have any contribution at the moment. I'll see what other contributions are on the side before the end. Thank you.
That's fine. Thank you. Was there any other cabinet members? Oh, sorry. I'm sorry. My apologies for missing that.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I just want to follow up on the comment from Councillor Wade and the response from Councillor Thornborough. There's an interesting section in the draft Greater Cambridge Local Plan for consultation about optimisation of gypsy and traveller sites. So clearly there's a little bit of balance being found about how existing sites are optimised, but also the new provisions that are coming forward in the local plan. So maybe you can say a bit more about the balance regarding that provision.
I think there has, during the carrying out of the survey, it's been found that some of the existing places for travellers and gypsies have become permanently used rather than being so that they're not available for the people who we've identified. I think this is mainly in South Cambs, and that needs to be resolved, and I'll hand over to Stephen Kelly about that.
Stephen, do you want to respond to that?
Thank you. Yes, there are kind of two threads to the approach to the gypsy and traveller and showman accommodation. The first is that, as you identify, Councillor Todd Jones, there is a policy now which is looking to optimise the existing sites, because we're aware that over time some of the pitches have coalesced, some of them have actually become quite fragmented, and indeed the amenities on some of our sites are not perhaps as good as we might want to see for the gypsy and traveller communities. We're also finding that in some circumstances pitches are not being occupied by lawfully by the gypsy and traveller community, and that's given the pressing need that we've identified through the assessment for spaces, that's not an acceptable position that we would want to see. So we have a policy or an approach in the plan which seeks to identify sites where we want to work with those communities on optimising and improving both the amenities and the quantity of pitches, because some of them are quite probably inefficient is not the right word, but they're not configured in a way that we think is the best possible way on those sites. And then the second limb of the policy is a criteria-based approach for those applications that may well come forward not on sites, against which we can then assess and consider whether an exceptional case is justified. So there's two limbs to it. We're acutely conscious of the identified need. We are actively looking to manage sites where the allocations are being abused. And we are seeking the community's views as much as any other part of the community on the approach that we're following.
Thank you, Stephen. And Councillor Moore, you want to come back?
Thank you. I just wanted to ask if you could explain a bit more about the engagement process. As Councillor Thornborough said, it's been highly successful in the past, reaching, was it 8,000, getting 8,000 responses. And I really welcome that you've extended the length of the consultation period because it's over Christmas. And you did touch on earlier about reaching younger people, but what about those other harder to reach groups that perhaps will be actually more impacted by this plan than others? For example, the GRT community, or those people who are really feeling the impacts of housing shortages. Thank you.
Katie, Toby, do you want to take that
So one way to reach our communities is for us all to be involved. So Lizzie has arranged for some training sessions which you should have been invited to, so you can have a pack of information and the tools, so that if you're in and about with your communities, you can tell the residents and local businesses about this to try and reach them. But Lizzie's also been working on a lot of outreach based on what worked last time, and further programs to actually go into some of the universities and work with university students, and I think schools as well. But maybe I'll hand over to Lizzie on this. Thanks.
Thank you. Yes, so as part of the members briefing pack, we have a list of all of the events and consultation engagement methods that we'll be looking to use. We've already started pre-engagement with the universities to make sure that we've got time before they go away for Christmas leave. We have drop-in events for our gypsy and travelling communities that we're working with our liaison officer to facilitate. We also are looking at underrepresented groups across both district and the city, and we're going along to over 100 events, including both Mill Road Christmas Market and the Camborne Christmas Fair, and a lot of other markets that we've managed to get a stall at. So we're trying our best to make sure that we're engaging with a range of members of our community, and we can brief you further over the next week on this. Thank you.
100, gosh, you're going to have sore feet by the end of that. Councillor Hawkins.
Thank you, Leader. Just to emphasise the point, as ward members, we have a responsibility to ensure that those that we know are not easy to reach, hard to reach, we actually go to them. Because we are ward members, we should know who they are, where they meet. Which is why the pack has been prepared to be given to us, local members. Really is down to us. I cannot overemphasize that. Thank you.
Thank you. So those packs are all ready to go, are they?
Subject to the outcome of this meeting, we'll publish them tomorrow, yes.
Marvellous, good. I look forward to that. I'm just thinking of, yes, lots of opportunities in my own village. That'll be quite fun, actually. Yes.
Thing, if I may, I know, we only have a limited number of officers, but if any member feels that they need additional help, call. Katie and I are willing to help.
Yeah, I mean, I would hope if your kind of roadshow comes to any of our villages, I would hope that you'd give us fair warning and that we would do our utmost to come and help you out. So, because these things are enjoyable. Okay, right. Councillor Bradnam, followed by Councillor Bennett, please.
Okay, thank you very much, Leader, and thank you for coming back to me. I just, we've been talking about engagement in the process of planning and in working up the local plan. And I just wanted to do a shout out for the Youth Engagement Service, because apparently it's only one of about 5 in the country. And what I wanted to point out and commend us to continue using is this service, which has a brilliant remit to engage with young people. So last week I attended a wonderful session facilitated by our Youth Engagement Service, which was involving young people Year 6 students at Milton Primary School who had been for a walk around Cambridge Science Park and had understood what that green space, which is actually open to the public, what was there that they hadn't seen before, but also what they'd like to see there. And it was absolutely a most brilliant workshop of getting them to do artwork, to think about the things that they thought were important, the things that they'd like to see there. They wanted to put more play equipment in so that children could enjoy the green spaces in the science park. And that was at Milton Primary School. And then earlier on today, I was at Mayfield Primary School in the city, where they would do, and I was privileged to be able to give some of those students their awards for their artwork. They'd also, in both the workshops, they'd made bug houses, painted bird boxes and hedgehog houses. And, you know, these young people came up with brilliant ideas, wonderful insights into what they'd enjoyed. And, you know, they also had a chance to learn about the democratic involvement with the planning process, you know, to listen to their views. So I just wanted to give a big shout out for the Youth Engagement Service and to say long may it continue, because our children really benefit from it, but our developers really benefit from listening to the children too. So thank you to the Youth Engagement Service and, of course, Bob, the mascot.
Thank you very much. Do you want to comment at all to me, Katie?
Just to say thank you for the shout out. The YES team and the YES service, as we call it, is also award winning.
Exactly.
And in fact, I think the team is up again for an award next January. So fingers crossed, we'll add another to our big list. But yes, I've always enjoyed participating in those events. And it's amazing the things that our young people come up with. And of course, what we're building now, they're the ones going to live in it, going to use it. So it's a legacy for them, which is why we need to be careful what we build now to make sure that we leave them a good legacy. Thank you.
Absolutely. It's the plan for their future. Katie?
I completely agree with you, Anna and Tumi. And I know in the city, the last update I had, I think it was about 600 children had been engaged in the programme, but it means it's 600 families. Well, maybe they're not brothers. Anyway, the parents get involved, so the communities. It's a very good way to reach communities as well. So thank you for the shout out.
That's lovely. Councillor Bennett.
Thank you. May I ask Councillor Tong's question, because I think it relates quite well to what Councillor Bradnam was talking about.
Yes, go ahead.
Thank you. We have the same system in our ward that many wards have, which is that a councillor takes a ward councillor role who is not sitting on planning regulatory committee. And for us, that councillor is Councillor Elliot Tong. So he has already been out talking to residents and asking them to be mindful of the local plan consultation and get involved. But he's actually getting quite a lot of pushback, and we wondered if we could have some help with this. Obviously, we haven't seen the councillor support packs because they won't be coming out tomorrow. But we wondered, is there an FAQ to explain the common things that residents ask us, such as why do applications that breach one of our more of our local plan policies get approved? Because what we're hearing from residents is because they see applications that breach our policies get approved, residents say they don't see the point of getting involved in the local plan.
We're losing you, Naomi. Sorry, the sound's very bad, so we're losing you. Do you want to say that last sentence again?
I really apologise. Is that any better?
Yes, if you just keep your microphone as close to your mouth as possible, please, that might help.
Okay, I'm doing that. So the issue is that residents are saying they don't want to get involved in the local plan consultation because they see applications that breach our policies getting approved. So he's tried to explain to them about planning balance and tilted planning balance. And we were hoping that they'd be in the glossary in Appendix A, but they're not. And so we're just asking for a bit of support in helping residents to understand the importance of a local plan, and that having input into policies is helpful. And perhaps Lizzie could tell us what we're getting in the councillor information packs.
Thank you. So I think this might, I'm going to come to Councillor Thornborough, but I think this might be a conversation that needs to happen kind of, you know, one-to-one, because it sounds like quite a complicated issue and the sound quality was quite bad.
So, Naomi, I think without a doubt, there will be an event in Abbey, even if I hold it with you. But I think that there's a lot going on in Abbey, and I think it's important that the residents there have the opportunity, and local businesses have the opportunity to learn more about the consultation. And it's very easy to dip in and dip out on the areas that you're interested in to make your points. So I think we'll absolutely make sure that you have assistance to engage with residents if that's what you want to do, or there may be an organised event already and I can help. But I think there's a separate issue about understanding planning applications and that process and planning balance. And I think we spend a lot of time talking about it, about how important it is that councillors understand how to help residents and how to try and give residents as much information about that as possible. It's a separate area to what we're discussing tonight, but I will pick up on that and I'll meet you and talk to you about that. Thank you.
Thank you. Stephen, did you want to just add something in?
Just to offer some reassurance, we could certainly take that point away. So our intention under the FAQs, there will be a set of FAQs that go with the guidance, and given your comments, we can perhaps offer some written reflections around that colleague councillors can take out to them. But as Councillor Thornborough highlights, planning is often a complex issue where things are not entirely binary in terms of compliance or not, but we will do what we can to reflect that concern in the FAQs that we take out.
Thank you. Councillor Mills, did you want to come into that? No?
Actually, the only thing I was thinking about was that really my experience of this engagement process has been way better than it ever was before, starting from that Corn Exchange meeting that we had at the early days of this. And we've continued to actively work on that engagement process to involve as many people as we possibly can. So long may that continue. And I think this is another step in that improved direction.
And my expectations, you know, with this pack being put together, my expectations is, you know, we are upping our game over and above what we've done in the past. So, you know, as members, we're being spoon-fed by our staff, by our officers. So I think it should be quite easy for us if we just use the materials that we're being given. But thank you very much, Naomi, and I'm sure that will be picked up later. Councillor Bick, you'd like to come in at this point?
Yes, if I could. I'd first like to add the appreciation of my group in the city for all the work that's gone on behind this, and it's really impressive, and it's going to be pressure tested through the consultation, and that's right and good. I like to say also that I welcome the determination in the document for the creation of really quality communities that would share and enrich amenities with existing residents and will avoid net harm to the environment and seek to improve it and help to fight climate change. And all of that, as people have said earlier, necessarily involves some levels of conditionality in what we are trying to achieve. A lot of it about infrastructure of all kinds, including transport, utilities, natural resources like water. And I welcome that conditionality because it's obviously vital to the quality. But we do have many obstacles, and they're inherent in this draft plan, I think. Now, how we regard that is really dependent on a question of perspective and political intention. Now, my view is that we do need to make possible, all the jobs that can bring prosperity to our area, and potential benefit to a lot further afield than that. And we need the homes for the people to live in. What I'd like to hear is that this vital conditionality about enabling those jobs and homes represents a challenge that the councils firmly intend to get resolved and get accomplished, and not a reason to give up or an excuse for not enabling those homes and jobs, because we're facing, I think all of us need to realise the shortage of supply, in particular of homes, which is holding a lot of people in very unequal landlord-tenant relationships, and sometimes very unsuitable accommodation, and adding congestion where people are having to travel long distances. And all of that we have an underlying need to deal with. So the question is really, from both councils, do we have the political will to do everything in our power to overcome those conditions and those obstacles, and not use them as an excuse for not achieving what's really necessary?
Thank you. So I'll start off with Katie and Tui on that one. Then I think I might bring in Cameron to respond as well, and I'd quite like to respond to that as well as pick up some other points as well before we move towards recommendations. Katie, start with.
Well, I'd say yes. Yes, we do. I think we've come so far in getting to this consultation of an amazing document, and it shows the hard work between two very dedicated local authorities to achieve this. I think it's an achievement. I think we all need to work together to bring those things forward. As Stephen Kelly mentioned earlier, we are up against it regarding some infrastructure, which it should have come a lot earlier to enable much quicker build out. Very conscious about the homes and making the homes as good as possible so that all of our community can thrive. Absolutely, yes.
Thank you. Tumi, do you want to add anything?
We've given so many planning permissions. What are the developers doing? Why aren't they bringing them forward? I mean, it's the delivery of these homes. We give the planning permission and the developers bring them to being. Perhaps the focus should be on getting them to build these things up quicker and better. We don't have authority over them. We can only give them planning permission. So please, encourage them, those in your area, and talk to government to whip that whip from them, not us. We're doing our best, but yes, thank you.
Councillor Mills?
Tomorrow Homes England are visiting our area, and one of their board members is Sir Oliver Letwin, who you'll remember talked about absorption rates.
Absolutely.
And that still is highly relevant to our area. I think there's nearly 35,000 permissioned properties that have yet to be built out. So that's an indication of this disparity between what's required by the market and what the developers will supply to that market.
Thank you. Cameron, before we move to recommendations.
Thank you very much, Councillor Bick, for your comments and for your support for the local plan process, and also for the need to have houses that people here can live in, as well as for good quality jobs for local people as well. Those are really important things that we're trying to facilitate through this local plan. These are, as well as being issues for the future that we're planning for, they are issues for residents now. So absolutely, we do have that determination to resolve these issues. And it's not just about 20, 30 years' time. That's about people sitting in traffic now, people not being able to afford a house now, and having to live many, many miles away. So all of these things are issues for residents now, and that's why we are trying to resolve them. We're working closely with the government already to try to resolve many of these issues, but they are not by any means simple things to resolve. And so there's a lot of work to be done in all of the areas that you mentioned, and we will be continuing with that work in the years to come.
Thank you very much. So if I'll just sum up before we come to the recommendations and back to our lead members to post those. So, I mean, I'm so delighted with this local plan. I was so delighted when I found out that it was written in plain English and I could understand it and actually enjoy reading it. That's never happened to me before. I've read some turgid local plans. I haven't, not from this authority, of course. But it's really, it is really well written. It's really, easy to understand, and I think the ambition of it, shouts out from page one. What I, within my own council, our big kind of mantra is about being green to the core. It's a plan. I would argue strongly that this is the greenest local plan ever in the whole of the country, and I think that's something that we should jointly be hugely proud of, because when we see people all around us moving away from climate, from the climate change agenda, and the appreciation that we're living in this terrible environmental and natural crisis at the moment, actually we are leaning into it, and we are doing way more than anybody else that I see. We are talking about it. We're keeping the debate alive, and we are planning how to actually do something and make a difference. It's a disgrace that we're still building houses that need to be retrofitted in 3 years' time. It simply should not be happening. It is so much cheaper to build houses at the outset with PV panels, with rainwater harvesting so that the loos can flush with rainwater, with cycle parking there, with solar thermal and so on, and with top quality insulation and triple glazed windows and so on. So much cheaper to do it outset than retrofit it in. It simply shouldn't happen. And in relation to things like disability compliant housing, houses that have been built where you can't put in a stair lift because the staircase will fall down because it's not robust enough. It should not be happening. So I think we are going a very, very long way to addressing that. I'm very pleased to hear, what's been said about how, the quality of the collaboration between our two councils. Obviously, we have a shared planning service, but the political collaboration I think is unique. Quite honestly, I don't see this. I do a lot of work for the LGA, and I go and visit an awful lot of other councils, and I do a lot of mentoring. This is normalised for me. And when I don't see it happening elsewhere, I kind of go, well, what's going on here? But actually, we're the abnormal ones, I'm afraid, because we've made this work, and I think we should be hugely proud of ourselves. There was a ministerial visit under the last government by a very senior minister, not my best friend, who came here for a while and said, well, this place, Cambridge, it leaks like a sieve. And what he meant was that actually everybody talks to each other. We all collaborate. We collaborate between councils. We collaborate with the university, with the NHS, with Cambridge University hospitals, with all the business sectors. We all talk to each other. So we all know what's going on. So what he perceived as leaking like a sieve actually was us all collaborating on a much wider scale, which is why we're so successful here. It's a frustration to me that even though we are leaning into the current government's plans for Cambridge, we still have no idea about what sort of housing numbers they're talking about. That's making life difficult for us. I have every confidence that our local plan is robust enough that it can accommodate whatever we have to deal with at the end of the day. But I will fight with my dying breath for the preservation of this local plan because it is so good. I think that's probably enough, actually. I mean, it's just really, really good, and I think we should all be really proud of it, and I think we should all get out there and promote it to our communities, because we've done it. We haven't done it for us. We've done it for them. We've done it for the children who are going to live in these houses and take the jobs that this plan creates. And I think we are an absolute exemplar for the whole of the UK. So, and I've just been handed another question from Councillor Clough. Online, all right. This is a very late question, but I will allow you to have it, and then I'm going to move to the recommendations. Councillor Clough.
Thank you very much. My question is essentially in two parts concerning supplementary planning documents and also linking into neighbourhood plans. There's a considerable volume of SPDs which have been prepared and are in use under the current local plan. Will these be valid once the new local plan is in place? If not, how will they be reincorporated into the new local plan? In the South Union Neighbourhood Plan, extensive references made both to SPDs in supporting text, and also some of the plan policies refer to specific policies in the current local plan, with the neighbourhood plan providing specific local site references. This also will be maybe similar for other village-based neighbourhood plans. So what does the South South Newham Neighbourhood Forum need to do in order for their neighbourhood plans still to be valid once the new local plan has been adopted? Will this require reconsultation and a neighbourhood referendum? And I guess the same question relates to village local neighbourhood plans. Thank you.
That's quite a useful question, actually. Do you want me to hand it on to officers, or
I'll ask Jonathan to answer this.
So the SPDs and the neighbourhood plans, how do they transition over into the new local plan?
So the SPDs would remain part of the plan, although they may need updating. I think we've made reference to potentially updating some of them in the consultation material. Neighbourhood plans is an interesting one. So it's almost the most up-to-date plan is given the most weight, as it were. But neighbourhood plans clearly can be updated, and if they need to then respond to changes in the local plan, they will need to do so. But we do a lot of supporting neighbourhood plans. We'd be happy to talk to any parish that wants to talk to us about the impact of our plan potentially on their neighbourhood plan in the future.
Good point. Yes, good point. I'll take that back to my village. Thank you very much indeed, Councillor Clough. Right, I'm not going to take any more questions now. We're going to move to the recommendation, which I don't normally read these things out, but I'll just summarise it. So it's set out on page 8 of the South Cambridgeshire Agenda Pack and 19 and 20 of the City Council Agenda Pack. So it's recommended that Cabinets agree the Greater Cambridge Draft Local Plan for public consultation, subject to the amendments proposed in Appendix K, note the sustainability appraisal, the habitats regulation assessment, and agree them as the supporting documents that will also go out for consultation. Agree to the publication of the following supporting documents: the topic papers for each theme, the statement of consultation, the duty to cooperate, the draft duty to cooperate statement of common ground, the equalities impact assessment, and the housing and economic land availability assessment. Then agree the update to the local development scheme, and agree that any subsequent material amendments to be made to the plan prior to consultation commencing will be approved by the lead members for planning and transport in Cambridge City Council and the lead member for planning at South Cambridgeshire District Council, so Toomey and Katie. And finally, agree that any subsequent minor amendments and editing changes that do not materially affect the content be delegated to the Joint Director of Planning and consultation with the lead members. So, South Cambridgeshire members, we will take if there are no objections, we'll take the recommendations en bloc. May I please ask for a member to move the recommendations? Councillor Hawkins, thank you.
I'm very happy to move the recommendations.
And I am equally delighted to second the recommendations. So do South Cambridgeshire Cabinet members agree with the proposals? Anyone wish to vote against? And anyone wish to abstain? Thank you. So South Cambridgeshire Cabinet therefore agrees the proposals, and I'll hand over to Councillor Holloway now.
Thank you very much. You've heard the recommendations. So Cambridge City Council members, can I first of all ask for someone to move the recommendations? I'm looking at Councillor Thornborough.
So I'd be delighted to move the recommendation.
Thank you very much. I will second the recommendation. Do Cambridge City Council Cabinet members agree with the proposal? Thank you very much. Cambridge City Council Cabinet therefore has also agreed the proposals.
So, the deed is done. I think we should give a round of applause to our officers. And a round of applause to you. Well done, everybody. That was a good debate. Thank you very much. That brings this meeting to a close. Thank you very much to those people who came in person and online, and to those watching the live stream. Thank you for your time, and we look forward to the consultation.